Welcome, future doctors. Hi everyone, and welcome to this Dr. Coffee podcast in collaboration with the Wits Physician Society. We're here at the Faculty of Health Sciences lecture halls at the University of Witwatersrand for this event, and what a privilege to stand before such an amazing room of people this evening. A huge thank you to the Wits Physician Society for the invitation to collaborate on this event. It's an honor to stand before a room of future doctors, future colleagues, and to offer to you motivation, encouragement, a little bit of education, and some insights into just one way of fulfilling your dreams and becoming a medical doctor in South Africa. So my name is Simon Fraser. I'm a graduate of the Gemp program here at Wits. Now let's get the obvious information out of the way first. The Gemp program is the Graduate Entry to Medicine program. And if you were here for information on anything else, perhaps now's the time to leave. But if you are here, we hope that it's because you're here for the Gemp program and not the hemp program or anything else for that matter. We're joined by current medical students and fellow Gempers. And we're now going to hand over to Caitlyn, who's going to talk to us a little bit and then hand over to the rest of our panelists.
Thank you, Sam. So I'd just like to start by introducing the panelists. My name is Caitlyn Slaughter. I am a fourth-year medical student, and I am the Vice President and the Head of Outreach for the Wits Physician Society. And I'll hand over to Kayla to introduce herself.
Hello everyone, I'm Kayla, I'm 22 and I'm also a fourth year medical student and member of the Wits Physician Society.
Hello everyone, my name is Kiara. I'm 23 years old. I'm a fifth year medical student. I'm currently doing my ophthalmology rotation and I'm an ex-committee member.
Hello everyone, my name is Imaan. I'm a fifth year medical student doing my surgery rotation and I'm also an ex-committee member.
All right, great. So in South Africa, as in many parts of the world, medicine is usually a 6-year undergraduate degree, and it's extremely competitive to get in. So let's talk quickly about numbers, right? So here at the Wits Health Sciences faculty, there are typically about 700 places to first-year students in health science degrees that will go on to be a kind of medical professional. So that includes physiotherapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, and of course doctors, okay? There's 700 places. They get over 20,000 applications every year. So the road to get into medicine at first year is extremely competitive. There's also a second way to get into medicine, and that's with a 4-year postgraduate degree, as in other parts of the world, including the United States. So in the United States, if you want to do medicine, first you have to do some kind of a pre-med or bachelor's degree that includes certain prerequisites before you can do medicine. Okay, everyone up to speed at that point, right? So what those pre-med students do, they will basically cover certain things that have to be in their curriculum in order to qualify for medicine. That's where Gemp comes in South Africa. Gemp is a mixture of that 6-year degree program and the 4-year postgraduate degree program. So the Graduate Entry to Medicine program here at Wits has certain prerequisites that correspond to the first and second year of medicine. So the most basic requirements to get on the board, right, are your chemistry, physics, biology, maths. That is essentially first-year medicine. First-year medicine students also do some social sciences and the history of medicine, things like that. But I think we can agree you're not going to be a bad surgeon because you don't know who Hippocrates was. Yeah. So you can get into medicine without having done those subjects, right? The second-year subjects in medicine in South Africa are molecular medicine, anatomy, and physiology. So if you have those prerequisites, there's very few people that will actually have those second year, because as you go through university, you become more and more focused on one topic. I'm sure everyone in this room is familiar with that. Okay, you choose your majors and you choose a stream, you choose a direction that you're going. So that's where the Wits Additional Placement Test comes in. You've heard of people speak about the WAPT, that's the Wits Additional Placement Test. What it stands for is a proxy, basically, of second year medicine. So you're going to get tested in molecular medicine, anatomy, and physiology, and by passing that exam, you're showing that you would have passed second year medicine. So you've earned your way into medicine. You're by no means a lesser candidate. You can hold your head up high, and one of the things we want to stress to people is that Gemp is not a lesser medicine program. You might have struggled to get into medicine and not been successful first time round, but that doesn't make you a lesser medical student. In fact, many of the Gemp students are actually stronger students in medicine. So we spoke about the numbers getting into medicine. How many people were applying for first year? It was over 20,000, right? The applications for Gemp are significantly fewer because people find opportunities elsewhere, and maybe they realize that medicine isn't necessarily what they wanted to do. They've heard how hard it is to be an intern in South Africa, and there are roughly 4,000 people who would apply for Gemp. And of those 4,000, Wits will tell you only about 2,000 actually have the correct prerequisites. So there's a lack of information, there's a lot of misinformation, and there's a lot of anxiety and confusion caused by that. So we want to kind of resolve some of those issues tonight. So about 2,000 people will have the prerequisites. Wits will send out invitations to anyone who meets the requirements and wants to write the exam. So roughly 1,200 to 1,300 people will be invited to write the WAPT every year. And of those, about 900 people actually pitch. I don't know if some people get stage fright or some people realize that they haven't studied, so they just decide not to turn up. But about 900 people will write, and it's a single high-stakes exam. Think about it. You've got one exam to cram an entire year of medicine into. It's a 4-hour exam covering 3 topics. I can't remember if it's multiple choice or it's X-type. We can get into that because sometimes it changes year on year. But the point is that they are covering an entire year's curriculum in one exam. It's a high-stakes exam, and it's only pass or fail. So if you pass that exam, you've passed that second hurdle. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about it as well. But the point that I'm trying to say to you is that if you have that first year level out the way, done, then you're ready to write the WAPT. If you don't have those first year prerequisites, now's the time to get them done, because Wits will not let you write the WAPT until you have them. In the past, they said to people, oh, it's fine, you've registered for physics, great, we'll see you at the WAPT. And then people failed physics, but passed the WAPT. And then Wits has to go through the academic transcript and see who passed, who failed, that kind of thing, right? So it's easier for them to say, no, get all your prerequisites first, and then you can be invited to write the WAPT. You write the WAPT, which is usually in September, middle of September. Everyone with me so far?
Yes.
It's very quiet. If you're listening to this podcast, you could hear a pin drop. So you write the WAPT in September. You'll generally get a good sense of how you do. I mean, you get some people who leave the room fist pumping, they're phoning their parents, yes, I passed. You get some people who are sobbing and their whole world has fallen apart. And about half the people are in the middle. And that's the people who are like, gosh, I really don't know. I don't know, molecular medicine might have been a bit weak. Physiology might have been a bit tough, okay? And you've got this anxious wait of between 6 to 8 weeks, which can be an eternity in waiting for results, before you find out whether you passed or failed the WAPT. So usually end of October, you'll find out if you passed the WAPT. If you pass the WAPT, that's still not entry to medicine, because that just means you make the shortlist. Okay, so the WAPT is pass or fail, so if you get 51%, you're in. We've passed. If you get 90%, you've done well, but you've only got in the same tick next to your name as the person who's got 51. Okay? We'll talk more about all the specifics and stuff, okay? But just to build a foundation, then you'll hear at the end of that year, usually around about December or January of the next year, if you're into Gemp. I realize that I might be speaking over everyone else's parts, so I apologize if I'm telling you information that you're going to hear again. But yeah, so that's just a foundation for you to understand, number 1, what Gemp is, number 2, what the WAPT is, and number 3, why the Gemp program exists. In fact, maybe just to add on to why the Gemp program exists, there is a massive shortage of good doctors in South Africa. And the first 2 years of medicine are quite intensive from a resource point of view. If you think about it, second year medicine requires a cadaver for you to dissect. Okay? Cadavers, I mean, in South Africa there's more cadavers than elsewhere, but cadavers are expensive. So it's easier for you to learn anatomy in the textbook. So that's why the road starts at third year and you come into medicine. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Kayla now. Is that correct? We're handing over to Kayla? Okay, cool.
Right, so I specifically am talking to you guys today from the perspective of a Wits student. I've only ever studied at Wits, but I did not have to write the WAP test. So I'm here to tell you a bit about how that works, how I was able to get exempt, and hopefully that gives you some insights also into the past degree that I did. So firstly, just a little bit more about me and my journey into medicine. I have basically always known that I've wanted to do medicine. From when I had to choose subjects all the way up to applying to university, any time I thought about my life going in any other path, I just couldn't picture it. Like there was just nothing else that I felt my calling towards, nothing else that I could see myself doing for the rest of my life. So it has definitely always been something on my heart. So this was always at the back of my mind when I was applying and choosing universities and things like that. So I matriculated in 2018 from the King's School Robin Hills. It's a very small private school, Christian school. So yeah, it didn't come from a big school or a big background or anything like that. And I applied basically everywhere. For medicine, I applied every university that I could, and then specifically at Wits, I also applied for a BHSC. So that is a biomedical health science degree, and it's called the BHSC Biomedicine. So that was the main, second option for me. If I didn't get into med, I felt like that would be my best chance. I knew about the Gemp program. I knew that was my backup if I didn't get into med first time. So specifically choosing BHSC Biomed, I had the idea in my head that I would go into medicine through the Gemp program. Then I also applied for the degree that Kiara did at TIX, which she'll tell you more about. So I got accepted for the one at TIX first, and I heard nothing from Wits. Literally up until I think I had a couple of days to accept TIX's offer, or I don't know. So I physically came to med school to see Sandra Ben, which is our admin lady, and I sat outside her office for hours, in a queue for hours, just hoping that I could get a chance to plead my case and be like, please, I need to know basically today if I'm in or not. So I did end up getting to speak to her. I did not get accepted into medicine, but I did get an offer for BHSC Biomedicine, which I literally, in the room, I was like, yes, I accept. Please accept for me on the portal right now. Please do it for me. So that's kind of been my route. I did that for 3 years. It's a 3-year degree, and then if you want to do honors, it's obviously an extra year. But after that 3 years, I was able to apply for Gemp, of which I got in first round of acceptance, which was the beginning of December that year. So it was a very long, stressful wait. It is a very hard time sitting, wondering if you've done enough, wondering what this year's group of applicants look like. It is stressful. If you're someone that's very driven towards medicine and that's always your end goal, accept that you will feel anxious, and that's okay. You will be stressed about it, and that's fine. And at the end of the day, work your hardest in whatever you've been placed in. In my BHSC, I was very bummed that I didn't get into medicine. I took a hot minute to just acknowledge that I was bummed. I was very sad. I was not keen to do a BHSC. All I wanted was medicine. But at the end of the day, this has been my story, my journey. I am actually so grateful that I did a BHSC. It taught me very valuable things that have helped me so much in medicine now. It just gives you that drive. It gives you a little bit of confidence. It really gives you the motivation and the work ethic that medicine requires. So at the end of the day, I'm very grateful that I did that. I don't regret. Well, I didn't have a choice. I didn't get into medicine. But I actually wouldn't have it any other way. I'm very happy with the route that I did, and the fact that I got exempt from the WAPs, that's what I was going to say, is because I did physiology, anatomy, and molecular medicine in second year, and then I majored in physiology and molecular medicine in third year. But that second year was what was vital. First and second year, BHSC kids are with medical kids. We are in the same lecture theatres, we have the same lectures, which is really nice. You still feel like you're in medicine even though you're not, so you know what you're working towards. But that at the end of the day got me exempt from the WAPs, which was one of the biggest reliefs besides actually finding out that I was in medicine. So yes, that's a little bit about me, and now I'm going to pass on to Caitlyn. To Simon.
Just out of interest, are there any Bachelors of Health Science students present in the room today? Hey, wow, there we go. Okay, fantastic.
That's so cool.
That's tremendous. So more than half of the people in the room are actually Bachelors of Health Science students. It might interest you to know I'm old enough that there wasn't any Bachelors of Health Science degree when I was doing my BSc. So Wits strategically and specifically started that degree to prepare you for the Gemp. Because there were so many people doing a BSc and being like, I want to do Gemp. So it's great that you guys are able to be with medicine students. I want to ask, were there ever times that the medical students were like, oh, but you just BHSC?
All the time. All the time. It definitely gives you a thick skin. You do get looked down upon. First year medical kids, generally speaking, have a very big ego. Yes. So it did take quite a lot of it's okay, I know I'm going to get there eventually, I'll have a degree, they won't. It did take a it did take a bit of I just have to ignore them for the most part because, yeah, I'm on a different journey to them, and at the end of the day, this is going to benefit me, and we are going to end up in the same place.
Yeah. And for the people who do BHSC, they graduate their 3-year program, and then first of all, they have the luxury of then choosing if they're going to continue with medicine, because you do see people in medicine in 5th year even why did I do this again? Oh yeah, mommy and daddy wanted me to do it. So there's that. And then also you go into 3rd year medicine. So you're not necessarily in a class with those people who were looking down at you, so to speak, in 1st and 2nd year and 3rd year even. But you're now with a whole bunch of people who are going, oh, they have degrees.
Yes.
It's a real thing. Okay. So, we're speaking about the WAPs now. This portion of the show, or the podcast, we're talking about the Wits Additional Placement Test. And we need to talk about AMPT for the WAPT. Okay. I didn't know about any tutoring or mentoring or study sessions going on when I was preparing to get into medicine. So, for those of you who don't know my story, in 2016, a very kind person in my life came to me and said, listen, medicine was your dream. Money was always the issue, because I used to work during my varsity years to pay for my BSc, and I realized medicine just wasn't even an option. He said, if you still have the dream, I have the money. Let's go for it. So at the end of 2016, I quit my job. And at that point, I was unemployed, and we found out, just after I quit my job, we found out we were pregnant with our 3rd child. So it was very stressful, but I came and spoke to Wits and said, listen, these are my academic transcripts. What are my chances of getting in? And they said, if you can do an honors degree with the same marks that you got for theology, you'll walk in. But you can't apply for medicine with a theology degree. It just doesn't hold the same kind of weight. It's kind of like saying, hey, I've got a PhD in music. I think I would be a good doctor. So my advice that I received from varsity then was do an honors degree. It can be in anything as long as it's science, because you'll get extra credits in composite index there. So I ended up doing paleontology. It was literally the only degree that would accept me. Physiology was like, no. Anatomy was like, no. Biokinetics was like, hell no. And I ended up doing paleontology, and in hindsight, it was great because it was a far easier program to get a distinction for. And what I've subsequently learned is that getting a cum in your degree, whatever degree it is, puts you in very good standing for the WAPT. So you might say, but I want to do physiology, I want to do anatomy. Even if you're doing cell biology, even if you're doing zoology, even if you're doing geology, it's a science degree. And I dare say it would be easier to do well in those degrees than it would be in the uber competitive environment of the Wits Health Sciences faculty. So that's a top tip for you. Okay. So in 2017, without knowing what I need to study, what books I need to read, I bumped into somebody at the paleontology department who was actually an anatomy student wanting to write the Gemp. And she told me about a practice exam that was going to be offered to students. You just had to pay 10 Rand to cover printing, and you could come and write a practice exam. So it's like, fantastic. It's May, I'm starting to study for the WAPT, let's write this exam. So the exam was written at the beginning of June. Guys, I got destroyed. I'm talking, I don't think I even would have got 30% for that exam. It showed me such flames. But it was a wake-up call at the right time. I was 3 months before writing the WAPT. Okay? 3 months before writing the WAPT. And I was in a room full of people who also wanted to write the WAPT. So we networked a little bit. We spoke about summaries. And somebody gave me summaries for anatomy and physiology. And armed with those summaries, I was like, right, there we go. I've got 3 months, 3 sections. I'm going to go 1 month per section, and I'm going to crush this thing. I literally broke it down like that. My wife and kids didn't see me for 3 months. They thought I had left the country. Meanwhile, I was just upstairs studying. And month after month, June, July, August, I covered the sections in the WAPT. So the encouragement to you is you might be sitting here today going, but it's too late for me to apply. It's too late for me to write. It's not. Because there's summaries and notes that exist. So in 2018, I was first year, well, not first year, I was third year medicine, I was Gemp 1. And I saw that there was a need for people to get what I got, which was an opportunity to network, share some summaries, and get information about the WAPT. There was a lot of misinformation. There were people saying things like, if you didn't get 85% for your degree, you shouldn't bother applying. There were people saying that the exam was going to be written over an entire week. It's not. It's 1 day. There were people saying that you needed to buy a textbook. You don't need to buy a textbook. Okay, so there was a lot of false information. So what I started doing was offering some Saturday morning tutorials where I would spend an hour and a half with people, literally just to answer questions and to give them tips on how to prepare. That then grew the following year when a handful of people who had been in those tutorials came back, Simon, we're so excited, we're medical students now, can we help out? And I was like, that's awesome, look at what we did. Just a couple of Saturday mornings, and now we've got a handful of people, we've got a team. There's an expression, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with people. So I sat in a room with these people, there was 10 of us in total, and I said, let us put together a formal thing. And that's where we decided to come up with AMPT for the WAPT. Okay, to get you stoked, get you fired up, get you ready for the WAPT. And the AMPT was actually a play on words as well. AMP stands for anatomy, molecular medicine, and physiology, the 3 sections in the exam. Okay, so AMPT for the WAPT, right? And we started offering Friday and Saturday tutorials, but we started making summaries. And that's the most important thing I want to say to you today. If you're preparing for the WAPT, please, guys, people have gone ahead of you. They've read the books for you. They've looked at all of the objectives that are available on the Wits website, and they've answered the questions for you. All you need to do is read. I can guarantee you that medicine is not a degree for smart people. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten in. Medicine is a degree for people who read. Okay, and what makes a good medical student? Put your bum in a chair and read the notes. When you're an intern doctor, then your bum can be in the air doing all the things. But to get into medicine, bum in the chair, read your notes. Okay, so the AMPT for the WAPT group still exists. There's currently 2,400 people on the Telegram group. That means that every year, there's some people that get in, they leave the group, and a whole bunch of people come in, and there's still like 2,500 people using those notes, using those summaries to pass the WAPT. So remember I told you about 900 people pass write the WAPT, correct? How many, just by show of hands, does anyone want to throw out a figure, what they think the pass rate is for those 900 people? Anyone want to volunteer a guess? So what percentage? Yes, sir. 30%. It's about half of that. So 900 people write, 140, 130 people pass. However, I'm quoting you like outdated, expired statistics. That's what it was when I wrote. Because of AMPT for the WAPT, more than half the people who write the WAPT pass. Okay, but there's a catch. It means that you need to shine on your degree. Because now there's more people passing the WAPT, it's harder for your marks to shine through. So that's why we're very clear tonight that the WAPT is only pass or fail, but your degree counts for what's called the composite index. Okay, Everyone understand what's the AMP for the WAP group is about? You can just search for them on socials, AMP for the WAP, and then you'll find the Telegram group. Literally everything you need is in there. There's a Google Drive with all the notes and summaries you need. Please don't invest in a textbook. All the textbooks you need are there. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to hand over to Caitlyn now to share her story and her route to Gemp. And she'll also talk about AMP for the WAP as well.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today to listen to our stories, which will possibly inspire you to pursue this incredible journey of becoming a doctor. As previously mentioned, my name is Caitlyn Slaughter. I'm the Vice President and Head of Outreach for the Wits Physician Society. Before I share my story, I'd like to thank Dr. Simon Fraser for being here this evening. It is an absolute honor to sit on this panel with you, and on behalf of the Physician Society, we hope the relationship between the Dr. Coffee podcast and our society will grow from strength to strength. I think every panelist here today brings a unique perspective to the Gemp journey, and everyone in the audience will relate to someone's story in a personal way. So my journey begins in the small coloured community of Sydenham, Durban, KwaZulu-Natal. It has always been my dream to become a medical doctor and to uplift the disadvantaged community that I come from. Opportunities such as the Gemp program are often seen as a foreign concept to communities who lack basic needs and do not have the opportunity to further their education, let alone pursue alternative routes to becoming doctors. So I hope that by sharing my story, it inspires other young people to know that it is possible to achieve anything you set your mind to, no matter where you come from. Becoming a doctor has always been my dream from a very young age. I think my parents bought my first plastic microscope in primary school, and I definitely tried performing CPR on my perfectly healthy younger sister while playing doctor as children. So I will fast forward a few years. I completed matric with 6 distinctions and 3 years of first aid service. However, I was not accepted to Wits Medical School at the time. I decided to study a Bachelor of Biological Sciences as I still had a passion for science and biology. I learned about the Gemp program and decided this was the path for me. In my 3rd year, I majored in microbiology, biotechnology, and physiology. I joined the AMP for the WAP Telegram group, which is a student-run group founded by Dr. Simon Fraser. He created the platform of resources for aspiring Gempers to access summaries for anatomy, physiology, and molecular medicine. And this is how I prepped for the WAP exam. It was an incredibly stressful time as I tried to balance the usual 3rd-year university work and study anatomy for the very first time. Thankfully, my biological sciences degree covered a bit of molecular medicine and also allowed me to exempt physiology. I passed the entrance exam and achieved my degree as the first Wits graduate in my family. Unfortunately, I was not accepted into medicine again, and it was utterly heartbreaking at the time. But I do believe that God always has greater plans, especially when we cannot see the bigger picture. So after extensively researching alternative options into medicine, I chose to complete my honours degree in clinical microbiology and infectious diseases. It was extremely competitive with only a class of 10 people, and most of us had ambitions of pursuing Gemp. I chose to go into virology and was placed at the National Institute for Communicable Diseases in the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. I was in the heart of it where they were analysing all the COVID stats and publishing them to the public. It was an incredible experience, and I had the opportunity to work under incredible mentors such as Dr. Gillian Hunt, Mrs. Ivaldi Cutler, and the head of the HIV and AIDS unit and head of the NICD, Professor Adrian Purin. I decided to fully dedicate the year to my research and expanded my knowledge on public health in South Africa and the many pandemics we face as a country, including poverty. The focus of my thesis was testing drug resistance mutations in the genes of HIV-1 patients who were receiving ARV treatments in South Africa. I loved the research and saw the impact the science had on clinical practice. However, my heart was still set on medicine.
I've always had a passion for people. My mentors could see this burning desire and saw that I wanted to be involved in the clinical aspect of my research and encouraged me to apply for medicine one more time. So I put all my eggs into one basket, did not apply for masters, and gave everything I had to my one shot at medicine. By the grace of God, I completed my degree cum laude and finally got accepted into medicine. And I'll just share with you how it unfolded. I had been seeing my classmates posting about their acceptances on Instagram or their social media, and I had heard nothing yet. I still remember my father was helping at church that evening, and he had asked me to bring an extension cord from home. So I think you could see the absolute anxiety on my face as I explained to him that I had not yet heard anything from medicine. And his response was, just be calm. So I decided to go into the church as it was empty at the time, and I sat in one of the pews, and I just prayed for a bit. I think I had a good cry as well, because this journey has really taken a lot out of me. And so that day I came home, and my mom said, just check one more time. You never know, check one more time. So I sat on the couch and reluctantly opened my student portal, and that's when I got my acceptance. You can imagine the sheer relief for my entire family. It was my proudest moment. Without my parents' and sisters' unconditional support, I would not be here today sharing this story with you. And they are still supporting me as they are in the audience today. It was definitely not without challenges, financial burden, emotional strain, and mental fatigue. But I can now see the bigger picture. I am now a fourth-year medical student, living in my purpose, which is to serve the vulnerable and uplift others. I definitely took the scenic route, but this route has also led me to be the first coloured vice president of the Wits Physician Society, and I have 2.5 years left before becoming Dr. Slaughter. I think that's proof that delay is not denial, and that all dreams are valid, even the dream of a little coloured girl from KwaZulu-Natal. So I encourage you all to pursue your dream of becoming a doctor. I acknowledge that we might not all share the same faith, but I would not be true to myself if I did not leave you with this. Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Thank you.
We're going to come to Kiara next. Well, thank you, Caitlyn. And I just want to add, I think that it's a good thing that you're in the Physician Society, because if you were to be a surgeon with the name Dr. Slaughter, I'm not sure if the patient would consent to surgery. Before we go to Kiara, both you and Kayla have spoken about exempting a portion of the WAPT. So for those who don't know, in order to exempt, you need to have passed that equivalent. And when you were actually writing the WAPT, did you then just kind of flip those pages saying, not for me? What was it like for you?
So basically, when you exempt a subject from the WAPT exam, it does not come up on your portal at all. So when I wrote the WAPT exam, it was 2020, it was in the height of COVID, so our exam was online. So when I accessed my student portal, I only had the exam for anatomy and molecular medicine. So it does not come up at all. And if you are writing in person this year or next year, I assume they'd only give you the pages that you need to write.
Okay. Wonderful. And do you have anything to add, Kayla, before we do Kiara? Okay, great. So we're going to come to Kiara now, because up to this point you've heard from people who have had a previous degree at Wits. Okay, and that's fantastic because Wits has your academic record. They can literally go, great, you got a distinction, fantastic, you're in. But if you come from another university, sometimes the course codes don't correspond, so you have to repeat courses that you've already done, or there might be other administrative challenges which Kiara can tell us all about.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just sitting from my iPad, guys. I'm so sorry. But my name is Kiara, as mentioned, and I'm a fifth-year medical student. I did a BSc at the University of Victoria with genetic psychology and human physiology. So just a bit of background. As all of us, I applied for medicine straight from matric, and then I never got in. And then at that point, I didn't realize how competitive medicine was. Because my dad is my hype man. It's like, oh, you're gonna get it. She can go on. And then that rejection letter came, and I was like, oh, now what? What am I supposed to do? So then my only backup at the time was a BSc in biological sciences at Tufts, or BCom in marketing at UJ. Thank goodness I never did that. And then I was like, am I going to move to Pretoria? Like, what's going to happen? Because I just do whatever my siblings do, and my sister came to us. I'm like, what is going to happen now in my life? And then fast forward, I'm in Pretoria, and I'm doing a BSc in biological sciences. And as Kayla mentioned, in Pretoria, it's a very similar situation. You are in the same class as med students, but you're doing a BSc. And it is the most frustrating feeling in the world, knowing we're doing the same module, but yours is going to take you somewhere so much different to where it could be taking me. And then at Tufts, they have this thing called a mid-year transfer, where after 6 months, we can join the med students and then go to their campus. 6 months kind of, another rejection letter. And then at that point, med students will go to their campus, and then you will stay on your campus. And at that point, I was like, nope, I'm not going back, I'm dropping out. And then my parents are like, no, we need to finish what you started. They've never told me what to study, but because I started, they're like, you're finishing those degrees. And then I just remember going back to campus, and people who've got into medicine knowing that you've just missed it by 2%. It was so discouraging and disheartening, and I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And then I heard about the Gemp program, and I was like, okay, cool, there's hope, let me try again. And then in second year, I was like, okay, let me get serious and really try for this, because I've seen other people do it. If they can do it, like, what's stopping me from doing this? Then every year, I would apply for medicine. Another rejection letter. God, I got 6 rejection letters. So it was for medicine. And then Charles, you each and every time, it's your goal. But if this is going to teach you anything, it's 7th time is the charm. And then the third year comes, and then you apply for the Gemp, and then you have to write the WAT. And then, bear in mind, I did not do anatomy at all in my degree. So I had to teach myself the entire anatomy syllabus on the side while still trying to do well in my degree, because it's obviously very competitive, and at the end of the day, the thing that matters most is my degree marks. So now I'm trying to juggle studying anatomy, and it's like the superior, inferior passion of this, and I'm like, well, it's like another language, it's like Latin or something, while still trying to do well in my degree, and it was very traumatic, but it's possible. And then shout out to Simon and the Answer the WAP group and these beautiful summaries that they all created. It made it so much easier. So because I had like 0 to no time to study for the WAP and also do well, the summaries, they saved me. As mentioned, I had to write all 3 parts of the exam. So don't be like me and keep it to the last minute. Start studying early. Like, I tried that, and then, life happened, and then I fell behind, and then I really got serious about 3 or 4 months before. And then the way I studied for the WAT was I used the Marib textbook, yes, as well as the summaries. And then in those last few weeks, it was just all the summaries. And then my advice is do a little bit every day. And I remember somebody once said in the group chat, you don't need 4 hours or 6 hours a day. You can literally learn so much in like 25 minutes. Like, even if you, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I have this big slot of time to study. You don't need that at all. Like, if you just do a little bit every day, it really does add up. And then I even heard about something called, I think it's Pomodoro or something. It's like 25-minute timer and then take a break. And like, if you just you don't have to work for 6 hours a day. You just, something's better than nothing. A little bit every day will really help you in the long run. Anyways, enough about that. So then you write the WATs, and then you have to wait to see if you pass or not. Then, okay, cool, you pass, but now, you want to be excited because you passed, but you're like, I'm still not idiot, so let me still be serious. So then you just have to, push and just make sure that your degree marks are good. And then it comes that time where, as mentioned, you see other people saying, I got accepted to be, like, and me, sorry, don't get me. Like, even if I'm not in, I still want to know. And then, because I was from a different university, they don't just have my marks on like the system, so you actually have to like send it in, which can be super stressful because I remember the deadline for them to have my transcript was like before my varsity was going to give it to me. So now I had to like call them like, please, I need this transcript like now, like I'm going to miss the deadline. It was super stressful, but yeah, no good now. And then also just to mention, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the selection is not the same. So if you're at an external university, they only take 30%. So let's just say there's 100 spots available. Only 30 will be for those who are not from Wits. So the competition is like a lot higher. And it's from people literally like Imaan, studying in America, from anywhere. So it's not just like these universities. You're competing with anyone and everyone. So you really have to make sure that you're serious. And then one more thing that I just wanted to add is that as much as your studies are important, if you know me, I like to enjoy my life and have fun. And I think it's really important to make that time for yourself. As much as we are bookworms and have to study all the time, put things on the weekend that you look forward to. If you like parties in 2 weeks' time, set a goal. Like, I need to study this much by day. Because it's your life. You still need to have fun. You still need to live. Go bowling, go ice skating, As much as this is important, there is more to life. We still need to live. So try and make that balance. And if I was in Hatfield and I could do it, anyone can. And then just one more thing. Sorry, I speak a lot. I think we don't really talk enough about like the imposter syndrome that you feel when you get in, because like I said, 6 rejection letters, like you almost don't believe that it's real. Like I only got excited and was like, okay, I made it when we had our first orientation class and I saw my name on my class list and I was like, oh, I'm in for real? But like, because you've been kicked down so many times, like, oh, you didn't make it, like, you almost don't feel excited for yourself. You're like, no, it can't be real. Like, it's not, so it is hard adjusting that mindset, especially as mentioned, some people look down on these other degrees and these degrees are hard. A BSc degree, it's hard. Genetics is hard. Like, people look down on these degrees and it is really hard. So just, try to pick yourself back up. There's this one quote, it's like, what is it? Failure is not getting down, but it's something about not getting yourself back up. I don't know. Don't stay down. Like, just pick yourself back up. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're less than because you're not studying medicine. Your degree is hard. Acknowledge that. Be proud of yourself for studying whatever you are studying. Don't get discouraged or anything like that. So yeah, let me stop talking. And now.
That's great encouragement, and I dare say very inspirational, even if people didn't really know the quote, they understood the heart behind it. And I think what comes through clearly is, rejection is never final. And there are many people who apply many years, even after they've passed the WAPs. There are people who pass the WAPs and then they have to keep going and get an honors degree, get a master's degree. Some people in our year, we had people who were even writing their PhD when they started medicine. And it's because they just kept on persevering, kept on persisting. I know that when you're 25, a year seems like a really long time, but anyone who's a little bit older will tell you that as you get older, a year becomes less and less and less. And yeah, just if you don't get in the first time, keep going. If this is what you really, really want. You mentioned two things, and Imaan, you've been so patient. We are coming to you, I promise. And if your bladder is starting to feel full, the toilet break is coming, we promise. But you mentioned two things, and I want to just piggyback on what you said. So you mentioned the Pomodoro technique. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, the Pomodoro technique's been around for a long time. It's what I used to make sure that I crushed my study goals, and I still use it if I have really deep, intense work that I need to do. Okay, Pomodoro is the name for tomato, I believe in Italian, but I stand to be corrected. Okay, and it comes from a guy who had a little timer that's shaped like a tomato clock. And what he did was he divided his 24-hour day into 48 half-hour segments. And he used his little tomato timer to do that. To study effectively, you just sit down at your desk and you just say, for the next 25 minutes, I'm not going to move. My phone is going to be off to the side. I'm not going to have any distractions for about 25 minutes. And why that's a magic number is that most people will find that their attention span will be between 20 and 25 minutes. Some people can go a bit longer. And certainly with practice, you will find that that time gets longer and longer and longer. But generally, I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you're sitting in a lecture, you're so attentive, your handwriting at the beginning in your lecture notes is pristine. And after about 20 minutes, you kind of start talking, your mind starts to wander, your handwriting gets a bit more sloppy, and then bam, all of a sudden you get that second wind of focus, right? Same thing with Pomodoro. You're just accessing that part of your brain that says, for 20 minutes, I'm not going to have any distractions. And let's be honest, this is a major distraction. Mm-hmm. All of the intrusive WhatsApp messages and notifications on the 7 social media sites that you're a part of. But if you silence that for 20 minutes, barring a fire or a death in the family, you're not going to need to tend to a notification on this for 20 minutes. Okay? The bank could be phoning you. It's fine. They'll phone back. Okay? So leave it and put that away and know that in 20 minutes time it'll be there. And then you give yourself a 5-minute break and you can do whatever you like. You can make a cup of coffee, you can respond to all of your DMs, you can phone someone, you can go outside, get some sunlight, whatever you want. But then you're back at your desk again for the next Pomodoro. That's a great way to make sure that you study. Another thing that you mentioned was the encouragement I gave to people was you don't need to start studying on the hour. You know those people who are like, oh, it's 11:14 now.
I feel attacked.
It's 11:14, so I can't start studying until 12.
I feel very personally
Right?
attacked right now.
So you know what I'm talking about, guys. All of us do it. We go, okay, it's 11:15. I'll start studying at 12, and I've got 45 minutes. And then you go, oh, it's 12:07. I missed it. I'm gonna have to start at 1. Okay? The other mistake we make is we think I need a day where I have like 6 hours. Yeah, 6 hours of good study time. Okay. The reality is that if you've worked any kind of desk job, if you've worked any kind of long 8 to 5 shift, you know that no one can actually do 7 hours of solid work. Okay? That's why a school day is only 4 hours long. The kids start at like 8 hours, at 8 o'clock. They have 2 hours of school, they have a break. They have 2 hours of school, they have a break. And then they send them home an hour later. Because you cannot learn effectively for 7 hours. So rather than look for those golden days when you have nothing else planned, try and do a little bit every single day. And it can be spread out over more than one study period. So if you've got 20 minutes in the morning before class, you can knock down 2 objectives of the WAPT. So you've learned 2 things closer to passing the WAPT. And then maybe you have a morning lecture and you have a free for an hour or 2, and then you have an afternoon lecture. By all means, rest between lectures. You still need to focus on your degree. But again, grab another 20 minutes to knock down 2 objectives for the WAPT. And then you look back at the end of the day, you said, yes, I got 1 day closer to my degree for the WAPT, but I also knocked down 7 objectives. Okay, and don't let the sun set without you getting something towards the WAPT. So even if it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, so you get home after gym or you get home after a social, you say, I'm just going to read 1 line of the summary and learn one thing. Going to learn the name of one bone. Going to learn one articulation in anatomy. Going to learn one nerve and what it innervates. Whatever. Please don't let a day go by that you say, oh, I didn't learn anything today. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, Imaan, you have been far too patient. Here you go.
Okay, like we said before, my name is Imaan Hassan, and I'm currently in 5th year, so that's Gemp 3. Yeah, the Gemp system was quite confusing for a while. When I remember the ones we went into like the surgery and we were in 4th year, they thought we were Gemp 4s. It's got a lot of very difficult questions. We're actually Gemp 3s, so 5th year. My story is quite different to everyone else's in that I didn't know that I wanted to do medicine when I was in school. I had a very different goal. At the time, I was very focused on tennis. I was a South African tennis player. I was competing internationally all over the country, and that was my focus. And when I was 18, finishing school, I got offered multiple scholarships in the United States to go and play tennis there on a sports scholarship. So in my mind, I was going pro in tennis at the time, so that was my goal. And that's actually the reason that I went to the States. And obviously when you get there, as a student athlete, you have to study something. I couldn't just play tennis. So I remember initially when I went, my parents came with me and we were sitting in the sports counselor's office and they're like, what do you want to study? And I didn't actually know at the time, but I always knew that I wanted to do something in the health sciences. Obviously in the States you can't go straight into medicine, you do have to do a pre-medical degree. So my coach was very nervous with me doing this because obviously we train 6 times a week, 5 hours a day, very difficult to balance the time. But my mom, who's one of my biggest inspirations, she'd instilled in me from a very young age that you have to believe in this concept of doing a lot of the time. So I always knew that I'd be able to cope with doing it if I kind of just studied a lot of the time. So I told counselor, I was like, no, I want to study this pre-medical degree. So it was big burden actually, like balancing both, because we compete every weekend. I'd be training every day, 4:30 a.m. practices, it was a lot. But fast forward, I didn't know whether I was gonna further my studies in the States or in South Africa once I finished my pre-medical degree. So initially I actually thought that I wouldn't be able to come to South Africa to continue medicine. Like I thought I'd have to start again from 1st year. Obviously at that point I'd already been studying for 4 years and I was like, I think it was like a year before my baby sister was going to come into medicine and I was like, we can't be in the same medical class. So I didn't know, because I didn't write NBTs. My goal was always to go to the States. I just wrote the SATs, never wrote NBTs. And I always assumed if you were coming to study, like to get into the Gemp, because I had heard of it, I assumed you would have had to have written NBTs. That's not true. Well, everyone else did in South Africa, but if you haven't, you actually don't have to have done your NBTs to apply for the Gemp program. So 2020 came, it was COVID. I was in my last year of studies, and I think it was March when everywhere shut down, and I had to fly back from the States back to South Africa because it was like the last flight to get out of there before things got really bad. And our season was cancelled, everything kind of changed for me. I didn't really know what I was going to do with the next year because obviously there was that, do I continue in the States or do I continue in South Africa? At the point I didn't know if I could continue in South Africa. So I came home and I started discussing the options with my parents, and I was like, listen, I don't really know if that'll be an option for me. But my parents were like, no, let's just look on the website and see. So we researched it a little bit, and I saw that you didn't actually need to do NBTs and that you could get into 3rd year of medicine, which would be the same as me getting into medicine in the States, because it would be 8 years in total. I'd done a 4-year undergrad, and to further in the States is another 4 years of a medical degree, whereas here I get into 3rd year, which would be 4 more years. So then came the problem of the WACT, because we didn't know if the exam was going to be online or if it was going to be in person. And it was set for September, and I was going back to the States in August. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to write that, there's no way. But my mom was like, just apply, you never know, things are really bad at the moment with COVID, maybe they will have the exam online. So that was actually what happened. The exam was online and it was in September. Obviously, coming from the States, I had to write every component, so anatomy, physiology, and molecular medicine, which were all courses that I had done in America. But the American system and the South African system is very different in that they only have semester courses, so they don't have any year-long courses, so you never tested on that amount of work. So it was like quite a big ask to have to study all of the stuff and write this exams in the States, because I was writing it while I was there. And there's a 7-hour time difference. So I had to wake up at 4 in the morning to write, which was 11 a.m. here. And I remember I went to the library because I was like, if the Wi-Fi at my place drops, it's going to be a problem. So I went to the library, I think I started with physiology. And it gets towards the end of the exam, and I'm clicking submit, and it's not submitting. And I knew nobody writing this exam at all. So thank goodness for Simon's and for the WAPT group, because I thought this was only happening to me, that the system was crashing. So I actually went to another library because I thought it was the Wi-Fi, and it just wasn't coming back up. And there was an hour or two of this stress, because no one kind of knew what was going on until we got an email saying that the system had crashed, because I think a lot of people were writing, and they said it could be an hour or two till it gets back up, but the exams had to be in by 10 p.m. South African time. So I was like, this is not going to work, I'm not going to finish all 3 components. Luckily they gave us 2 hours extra. So anyway, finish writing, think everything's good, go on with my life from September, and then I get an email in November, and they unfortunately 25 people out of, I guess, I don't know how many wrote that year, have to rewrite some of the components of the WAC. And I was like, it's not going to be me, no way. I submitted everything. It was me. I was one of the 25, and I was so upset, because it was end of November. At that point, I assumed people were already getting told whether they had gotten in or not. And I was like, now I'm rewriting, they'll never consider me, all of this stuff. So then I rewrote, again at 4 in the morning. It's really painful, but rewrote, submitted, everything went through. And then obviously you only hear by the end of December, Jan. And how it works in the States is your year starts in September and ends in May. I had gone to the States in January of 2017, so I could technically graduate December of 2020. But I didn't know if I was going to get in or not, and with COVID, they'd given all of the athletes an extra year to compete. So my coach was under the impression that I was staying until May. So I had to go have a very painful conversation with him, being like, there's a chance that I might not actually come back to the States at all. I'm going home in December, I'm going to take everything with me, and there's a chance I might not come back at all. And there's 8 people in a team, 6 compete. It's a bit of a difficult conversation. And at the time, I was the captain of my team. I was a senior on my team as well, and in your team, it's a very big role, because you lead the team, you guide them, everything like that. So it was a difficult conversation to have, but my coach was someone that he had a lot of faith in me. And he's like, you know what? I know that your path has changed since when you came here when you were 18, because obviously at that point, tennis was my main focus, but as time went on, I was more focused on medicine. And he's like, I know that your goals have shifted, so if you do get that opportunity, obviously I want you to take it, because that's where your life's going to go. And so I left all of like everything, my friends. I didn't know if I was like crying when I'm saying goodbye to them. I might even like breathe. But, it was just like everything was so up in the air because I just really didn't know what was going to happen. I had to pack up my whole room, and you can only fly with 2 suitcases. So I had to leave a suitcase in the States, which is still in the States. I have a very good friend. She has it. But anyway, yeah, so it was like I'm just uprooting my life for something that I don't even know if I'm going to get in for. And also, we only finished on the 15th of December, and you needed to, I think at that point you needed to submit your transcripts by early December. So I had to write a very nice email and tell them, listen, I only finished on the 15th, I can give you my transcripts up until this point, but obviously it's not the official ones yet because I hadn't graduated at that point. And they were very forthcoming about it, because I think initially you just assume everyone's just going to say no, like you can't do that, but they were actually very forthcoming about me being able to give those unofficial until I got my official transcripts. And then, yeah, I think it was around the 20-something of December, we were on holiday, chilling, and then I got the email. I wasn't sure because obviously like I didn't even know how to use the Wits portal or anything like that, so for me it was an email. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I sent it to Simon being like, is this the acceptance? Was like my guru in this whole situation, because I knew no one that had done this program, and After the WAP was like, it had all the summaries, it had all the advice, all the answers, all the questions. And Simon's like, oh, you got in. Okay, cool. He's like, I'll add you to the Amp for Gemp group because you made a WhatsApp, which we still share resources on today. So
awesome.
It really helps. Yeah, you should do it. Yeah, so that was kind of my journey. It was a little bit different. Yeah, I think like I really didn't know that you could do medicine coming from a university that wasn't in South Africa, and I think a lot of people don't know that, so I think it is something that is important to know that it is another option, because sometimes you don't know that you want to do medicine from the beginning. I didn't, but I think like that's just life. Your pathways are going to change, what you decide to do is going to change, but I think you shouldn't look as anything that you've done in your life as like a bad thing. You need to look at it as just like a step in your journey. Like they've all said, everyone's journey's been different, and genuinely I would do it exactly the same way. It was some of the best years of my life, so yeah, that was just kind of my journey.
Amazing.